Hey guys, this is Nate from RunDreamAchieve.com. Hope you guys are having a great week. Today's topic is how to run a 6-minute mile pace longer. And running 6-minute mile pace for 1 mile is already high quality running, but to do it for a long period of time, whether you're trying to aim for a 6-minute mile pace for a 10K or a 5K or all the way up to the marathon distance, the longer you can spend at that particular pace and get it to feel more in control, not so aggressive and not so taxing on the body, will definitely take patience on your part. But definitely, if you're wanting to run a 6-minute mile pace longer, I wanted to share 7 specific tips and strategies that you can use to help you in your particular event to try to be able to not only try to be able to, but to absolutely be able to crush that sub 6-minute mile pace for whatever distance you're aiming for. Obviously, the longer the longer you're aiming at running the distance, running the pace at that particular pace, the more challenging it is. I mean, obviously a sub 6-minute mile pace for a marathon is around, I'm guessing, but it's around 235, 230 or 240 range, around that range. To do it for 1 mile is quality. I mean, to run a 5:59 mile, you have to be very, very fit. So these particular things I really want you guys to keep in mind as you move forward in trying to hold, in terms of how to run a 6-minute mile pace longer. Is the first thing is to always focus on periodization. This is very difficult at times because we're wanting quick results, and we want to see the benefits of our hard work pay off quickly. But a lot of times you really just have to focus on increments of effort first. So focus on 7-minute mile pace. Try to spend 3 weeks trying to run around that pace first, so your body adapts to that. And then after that 3-week period, then focus on 6:15 mile pace. Spend some time training at that particular effort for 3 weeks, and then move on to 5:59 mile pace. And then eventually and do that for 3 weeks, and then move to 5:35. So again, you're gradually over time spending longer periods of time at faster efforts. And as you get fitter, not only is your body able to handle that particular pace for a longer period of time, but it's because you were patient with your training. You were focusing on periodization, where your mind was focused on progression. You weren't just like, okay, I'm going to run at 6:45 mile pace immediately, and then I'm going to jump to 5:50 mile pace. You do it consistently, but you do it with a plan. You do not jump into rush training, because it's going to make you very, very frustrated to be able to not run as fast as you want to run for as long as you want to run. But if you're pushing the pace and you're pushing your efforts too quickly, it'll really oftentimes it does backfire on athletes because they're too much in a rush. They're not fit enough yet to handle those particular paces. So always focus on progression and on periodization. Allow your body time to adapt to what you're throwing at it first. And then eventually you're going to get fit enough where you're going to be able to sustain 6-minute mile pace for a long period of time, and not just for 1 mile. So if you get to a point where you can run 1 mile under 6-minute mile pace, there's no reason why you couldn't do it for a 5K or 10K or 5 miles or further. It's just a matter of, one, you stressing the anaerobic systems of your body. You got to train, which is the next tip. You got to train, get to a point where you can train at 5-minute mile pace. Now, if your current best is 6:20 and you want to run a 4:59, that's a big jump in effort. But if you're training for small periods of time at sub 5-minute mile pace, it's not only going to make that 6-minute mile pace feel more in control, but you're going to be able to sustain that 6-minute mile pace for a longer period of time, because you're training at much higher anaerobic efforts. And your body, as you get fitter, your body's going to be able to clear that lactic acid faster, and it's building up. And that's why the best middle to long distance runners make it look so easy, is because they've spent sufficient time training very, very hard at very high anaerobic levels, very high percentages of their maximum heart rate, over a consistent long period of time. Great results in this sport do not happen overnight. I know most of you guys know this, but it's very important to keep that in mind, is focus on training a little bit of time at 5-minute mile pace. Now, Obviously, you're going to have to get very fit to be able to do this. So again, it goes back to being patient with yourself, being high focus on progression and training the anaerobic systems of the body, coupled with training very easy aerobic base mileage as well. Always focus on building your foundation first before you move into any type of harder anaerobic efforts. So you want to build that endurance and that stamina up that you're going to need to be able to sustain 6-minute mile pace for long periods of time, not just for 1 mile. So if right now you can't run under a 6-minute mile, focus on the speed workouts, focus on building your endurance, longer runs, running over distance, which is the next tip. Run over distance so that you can build that endurance. So the longer you run, the easier a 6-minute mile pace is going to feel, because again, you've built that high mileage base, or just a consistent lower mileage base over a long period of time. So you've built up a very strong endurance, and your body, like I said, your body is very capable of clearing lactic acid and teaching the body also to burn fat at race pace, closer to race pace, and conserving carbohydrates, that you're going to have much higher fat storage in the body than we do carbohydrates. So generally, we only have around between 1,700 to 1,800 calories of carbohydrates built up in our body. So a lot of times, most athletes have heard of hitting the so-called wall in the marathon. Usually athletes hit that around 17 to 18 miles into the race. And that's usually because we only have around 17 to 1,800 calories of carbs, glycogen built up in our bodies. So again, the key thing is with training at faster paces than 6-minute mile pace, and to be able to sustain 6-minute mile pace for longer, you definitely do want to teach the body to burn fat and conserve carbs, so that you can not only sustain that effort for longer periods of time, but you'll have those carbohydrates to really rely on later in your race. So I hope that makes sense. The next tip, train on hills. One of the key workouts I did over the years, training for either the mile all the way up to the marathon distance, and especially getting to a point where I could run under 6-minute mile pace for a marathon, until at the end running under 5 minutes and 20 seconds per mile pace for the marathon. The main thing that would really help me is, because I was always working on my leg speed. Get on a hill. Obviously, you have to build your aerobic base first before you start really jumping into hill training and hill repetitions, but find a real good hill, solid hill between 100 to 200 meters in length, and focus on just sprinting up it as hard as you can, and then walking down full recovery, so that you're again focusing on building that your stamina up, but you're also recruiting fast twitch muscle fibers that you need. The more fast twitch muscle fibers that you can get from doing hard anaerobic efforts like doing hill repetitions, track sessions, repeat miles, repeat 2 miles, repeat 300s, 400s, 200s, 600s, Ks, all those types of workouts, the more will strengthen your body, because you're training at very high levels of lactic acid buildup. It's going to hurt very much early on as you're not as fit, but as you get fitter, doing these types of workouts, the speed sessions, the hill repetitions, are going to make you get to a point where sub 6-minute mile pace is no longer as daunting as it once was. Maybe you couldn't hold 6-minute mile pace for 2 to 3 miles earlier on when you were not as fit, and now as you get very fit and you're focusing on training at like I said, closer to 5-minute mile pace, and you're able to do those mile repeats around 6:15 to 6:30, do 6 times 1 mile repetitions between 6:15 and 6:30, you're going to be able to, or faster, you're going to be able to sustain 6-minute mile pace for a long period of time, and not for just a short period. But the key thing is to be patient with yourself, because it's going to be very difficult, as you guys already know and gals already know. When you're not very fit, it's very hard to sustain our goal race pace for very long. But as long as you stay consistent and you follow a solid plan, it's not so daunting anymore, and you're able to, your body again is able to clear lactic acid faster than it's building up. You're able to sustain race pace longer, and you're able to throw those surges in the race and see what your competition, to see if they've really done their homework or not. So definitely working on training on hills. Next thing is focus on your race distance. Okay, so whether you're trying to run 6-minute mile pace for a 5K, a half marathon, or even the marathon distance, you also want to focus on what do I need to do to be able to sustain 6-minute mile pace for my chosen distance? So if you're training for a 5-miler, you need to get to a point where your long run is at least double the distance of that race distance. So again, you're building that endurance, you're building up your stamina and strength from doing those speed workouts, longer paced and longer duration tempo runs, where we talk about in other videos where you're training at your anaerobic threshold, and again, that's usually right around 90 to 92% of your maximum heart rate. So again, depending on your age, a good estimate of finding out what your maximum heart rate is to subtract your age from 220. And that'll give you kind of a ballpark idea. And then you take your maximum heart rate, find out what that is, and then run around between 90 to 92% of that maximum heart rate for longer periods of time during your tempo run. And again, earlier on in your training, your tempo run might be 2 miles. And then later on, you want to but if you're training for a shorter race, like a 5-miler or a 10K race, if you can get that tempo run extended, you're going to be able to sustain sub 6-minute mile pace, because again, you're training at not only a higher percentage of your maximum heart rate, but you're eventually going to adapt to that stress. And the faster or the longer you train at your anaerobic threshold, and you also couple in all the other factors that go into great running, longer long runs, faster long runs, which is another tip here. Faster long runs. Don't just run every single weekend nice and easy. There is a place for that, and you definitely still want to do nice, easy long runs every single or every weekend, but not every single weekend. You want to alternate a longer, faster paced long run, followed the next week by a relaxed, easy paced long run, where you're totally kilometer pace, mile pace is disregarded. All it is just time on your feet, so you can recover from those harder anaerobic efforts. That really key in terms of how to run a 6-minute mile pace longer. You want to keep these things in mind. You want to definitely focus on training closer to 5-minute mile pace, so that 6-minute mile pace is no longer as aggressive and as much of a headache to you as it once was. Again, always focus on long term, focus on progression, periodization. You want to adapt, spend some time training at around 7-minute mile pace, then drop it down to 6:30 mile pace, then to 6-minute mile pace, and then to like 5:30 mile pace, and then move it to where you can get to a point where you can sustain 6-minute mile pace for long periods of time. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. I know it's frustrating too when you're early on in your training, you're not very anaerobically fit, but you can go out and you can run for long periods of time at real slow distances, or long, slow, easy paces, but you can't sustain the hard anaerobic efforts for very long. I totally understand it, I totally get it, but just keep these things in mind, and you will be able to sustain that sub 6-minute mile pace for much longer, for a long period of time, regardless what distance it is. Last thing I just want to keep just to remind you guys, is to definitely implement a strength training routine into your preparation. Again, you don't need to get in the gym and focus on heavy weights. Focus on light weights with high repetitions. Focus on the running muscles of the body. Great drills to keep in mind are obviously medicine ball drills, where you're focusing on your core, where you're throwing the ball up to your side, up against a wall, and pushing out. Those things can really strengthen your core. Focus on planks, sit-ups, crunches, and the running muscles of the body. Find a wooden box, and most gyms have these, where you jump up and you focus on explosive type activities, where you're really working the quads and the calves. But again, always focus on, and even if you have sleds, some gyms have sleds where you can put some weight on the sleds and focus on getting out on the grass and sprinting for 50 meters or 100 meters with the sleds on with some weight. That really will help you, again, not only work on your form and your stability while you're running, but again, you're stressing the anaerobic systems of the body. Will go a long way in terms of running 6-minute mile pace for a long period of time. So I hope this video is helpful for you guys. If you're brand new, click that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, so when I make a new video, you'll be notified. And if there's any questions or anything I can help you guys out with, and gals, feel free to leave me a comment. I always respond to my people that stop by to leave comments, or if there's a topic or something that you really need help with and you'd like me to make a video, feel free to leave me a comment below and I will definitely make the video or I will respond to your questions. So hope you guys have a great week of training, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.